It's Wednesday night, and we're live from Oakdale, Washington, in the Educated Touch studio. Welcome to Ethics Outside the Box, with your host, Nathan Nordstrom. Special guests include David Otto and you. Here he is, Nathan Nordstrom.
Well, hello, my friends. It is great to have you with us today. We are talking ethics outside the box, a little bit more gameplay in ethics than most people are used to. We're actually going to really kind of try and engage some live experiences, some examples of what's going on, and really get people excited about what the benefit of following massage therapy standards is. If you don't know who's with me, I guess you don't know me very well, because this is my good friend David Otto. David Otto is an amazing massage therapist out of Las Vegas, Nevada. He connects with people through the Massage Therapy Foundation, through American Massage Therapy Association. You're nationally certified and going that direction, connecting. David, what don't you do?
I don't practice outside of my state-defined scope of practice. I know that.
Well done. Well done. Yes, let's find something that's a positive don't do. Yeah, being able to connect with what your job is and what your scope is definitely important. And Las Vegas has unique laws, just literally like every state. Every state has their own thing that is unique to that state. And so being connected with that and remembering that we're striving to talk about the overall scope of practice. We're talking about the overall code of ethics for massage therapy. A lot of those pieces are also important for you to know specifically for your state.
Hey, Nathan, I know you want to jump right in, but I had a really interesting question today about CBD that I want to cover today, if that's all right, sometime.
I love it. I think that's a great thing to talk about. And I think that goes right into our first subject quite well. So let's remind people where we go for that. So I'm going to go to the that, and there we go. And the place that we suggest people go to is the National Certification Board of Therapeutic Massage and Body Workers, ncbtmb.org. And you go to the bottom of the page, go to the Standards of Practice. And we have kind of processed through these standards pretty successfully. And we are now on M and N. So starting with M, seek others' professional advice when needed. And then N, respect the traditions and practices of other professionals and foster collegial relationships. And that's probably not where you were going with CBDs, but I think there's a really good piece there with seeking advice when it comes down to what the use is, what the value is. So
for sure.
Let's start with the CBD discussion, and we'll see what we can do about pulling it away, putting it in, and having it in the right space for all of this. So what was the topic?
So I had a practitioner contact me about whether using CBD infused products was something that we could do in Nevada, and that was like kind of the generalized question. And of course, there's a whole legal consideration right now for marijuana and marijuana products, including CBD infused products, around the country.
Yep.
Each state has different laws. Some don't acknowledge it at all, where others have both a medical and a recreational usage of it. It's free to use now. And then they have the federal legality of possession and usage of marijuana-derived products.
Correct.
So it's a Schedule I issue, and our state board, who I asked this directly to quite a while ago, after I think last year, after Nevada had moved it into recreational. They had medical use laws on the books a couple years prior, but then they moved into adding recreational. So all these stores start popping up, and there's all this hubbub. I think people have seen in products that are targeted towards massage therapists and other professions that have this kind of application towards their clients. They've seen the products being advertised and things. So obviously a question will come up as to, what is our role in all of this as massage therapists? And in Nevada, I can't speak for any other state right now, but according to our board, they don't have a position. And it says as much on their website. They've actually heard, the questions from the licensees and from the public, and they put a statement up there saying they don't have a position, which means they don't support or deny it. So that kind of leaves us in a predicament because it's a scope issue, and when we're talking about standard 1M, seeking other professional advice, there's not a lot of advice to be gained from the usage of these. These are all very new products on the market, and I think our profession is in a unique position to use it on a regular basis. I know that there are cannabis-based spas that are being opened up in other states and are very successful, and the movement of this economic force into other states we're really on the cutting edge. It's really hard to answer that question except on the side of safety. There's no other professional to ask about this. Similarly, I think
I disagree.
Okay.
Because when we look at research and trying to find out the best research regarding CBD and THC as two different products from the plants, you don't get a lot of collegiate required or collegiately trained research out there. There's more. It's processing. It's coming through, and a lot of it is theoretical instead of actually application based. So that becomes a little more difficult. However, really, I think there's a statement that I've used many times, and it's not the best practices, but I still consider it really good practices and something that you really need to do anyway. I say, who's the expert of that person's condition? It's them. So they say they're diagnosed with ankylosing spondylohukaluka smookaluka poo, and you've never heard of that. Where do you go to figure out that? Well, okay, so yes, you can go to PubMed, you can go to at WebMD, you can go to these different sites, the National Institute of Health, and try and spell it correctly. Good luck. And try and go that direction and get some information. But I would have to say most of the pathologies that you'd be looking up aren't going to say anything about massage therapy and if it's good or bad.
Right, and so similarly, I think that is very similar, that there's as much massage therapy research that is used in integrative way. Mm-hmm. It's research to support referring a patient to a massage therapist, as there is, or more so really, than there is on marijuana derived products that help pain, with pain management issues. And I would venture to say that there's a lot of pain management doctors that would probably know more than your average MD about the effects of CBD infused products for pain management.
When it came down for me, because my son's, anybody who knows me or doesn't know me, my oldest son's epileptic. And so when we had a lot of people say, hey, have you tried CBD oil or THC or these different products for his seizures? I was quite leery because he's my son, and I feel like I have to protect him. So the first place we went to was his epileptologist, his neurologist, and talked to her about, hey, we're getting this type of information. Do you have anything for us? And she's like, well, okay, I've had patients who have tried it and it's worked. I've had patients who have tried it and it doesn't work. Here's the side effects you got to be conscious of. Here's those extra pieces. And so going to a doctor in that specialty, especially when you're talking about pain management, that's definitely an important piece. There's also a psychological aspect of CBD and THC. So that you might be wanting to look and go towards a psychologist instead of a pain management specialist.
Absolutely. I think the doctors need their respect. Like in standard 1N, the respect of being asked through the referral, and having a part in whatever a massage therapist might be able to give them that is anecdotal. I mean, you just talked about your son, and there's so many stories, successful stories out there for patients that have tried other things or everything, and this is something that works for them. Not everybody, obviously, but the anecdotes are what is driving the use of the products right now, I think.
Well, but I mean, we could also go back in time and say, okay, anecdotal evidence is the thing that starts research.
Absolutely.
You have to have a story of something happening right or wrong for someone to go, well, I want to prove, I want to check that out. I want to see if there's more possibility to this. I don't know about this. And so that anecdotal evidence, I know when I was in massage school, that's pretty much all we had. And this is year 2000. So, I mean, we're talking about, yes, 18 years ago, but still it was perceived that we should have research. And my teachers would say, oh, well, there was this guy who, and they once did some research about, without any defined explanation of where they found the research, who did the research, who the guy was, and what the long-term effects were for that person, instead of just, well, he got a massage and then he could walk out. They don't say, and 20 minutes later he went to the emergency room. They just give you that piece that says, oh, massage can help people walk who are in severe pain.
Mm-hmm.
So those stories are there. And a lot of times right now, we're in that Wild West stage of CBD where we're using stories. And just like the specialist for my body's condition is me, the specialist for a product is the people who really work with it the most. And I hate to go about it this way, but the dispensary shops do have people who are knowledgeable. You can actually go to certain websites that do have legitimate research. The one that I can refer to because of my personal experience working with my son was CW Charlotte's Web, which is the one that's been most known for epilepsy. Going to their foundation and getting onto their mailing list so that they can point to the most recent research on their products. Mm-hmm. So you have to go through that as a portion of it. But that was an interesting turn on something that wasn't really an ethical thing. You asked about law.
Yeah.
And the law is one aspect, and the ethics are how you deal with the law.
Yeah. When, where, why.
I'm always intrigued when someone says, okay, well, I follow the law, but I hate it. Well, you're putting something out there ethically about your stance and about your belief in the system and about how you feel about the system, which affects you just as much as if you just didn't do it. In many cases, I mean, it's probably less legal because you followed the rule or the law, but you still have that internal working of, I don't like this. This has to change, but I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. Hey, you mentioned Charlotte's Web,
Yes.
as a resource for, I guess, epilepsy-centered information, like studies and
Mhm.
things like that. So would you say that that's considered a profession, like in the standard, like we're reading the standard, seek other professional advice when needed? Would you
Uh-huh.
consider an organization a professional, a source of professional advice? And instead of going to a single doctor, maybe the client's general practitioner or specialist?
Good question. I actually do. And part of the reasons why I think that is because I don't go to the researcher who's doing the research and only trust them. If it's published in the IJTMB, the International Journal of Therapeutic Massage and Body Workers, I would trust the Massage Therapy Foundation that they have a good peer-reviewed system and a peer-reviewed journal that's going to provide you the right information. That is one of the reasons why I went to Charlotte Webb, because it's a nonprofit foundation that's doing research. And so they're following the research guidelines. And so that's figuring out who you're going to trust. Here's another great example, which is on the other side of that. One of my favorite groups out there is Massage Warehouse. And when we look at Massage Warehouse, we think, okay, yes, they are going to sell products that are good for us and that really do help. And so I typed in CBD in the search bar, and you said there's a whole slew of different products that are marketed towards massage therapists. And according to this, page 1 of 5. Let's see, 12 different, so 12 times 5. Yeah, so you got a few. You got about 30 items here. No, no, you got more than that. 12 times 5, so yeah. So you have this, this resource. Now, as you go through and you're looking at it, I love to separate out research versus advertisement. Speak of the devil, here's the Charlotte's Web hemp extract oil that, one of them that we used for my son. But this is the line of product that you would then go, okay, anything you click on here is going to be what? It's going to be an advertisement, right? And is advertising a bad thing to read? What do you think, David?
Well, advertising to me is sort of like when you see something that your client can use and you make a recommendation. That's also an advertisement if there's a product involved. If it's not the service that you're trained to do, now you've introduced a retail element to your relationship, your therapeutic relationship, and that is not a bad thing. Knowing about the the nature of the products, maybe you have used it yourself and can attest to it. Its efficacy, for the purpose that you see, that is a therapeutic nature, I think. But it still comes down to, hey, I like this product, you want to try it, kind of, and that's an advertisement as well. I mean, there's nothing better than a professional that, like I did some advertisement for Bon Vital products at some point. I actually used their sports cooling gel. And they featured my testimony in one of their catalogs. So, as a massage therapist, I can attest to the effectiveness of that product for the purpose I was using it. And I think that's a great thing. I mean, there's no better testimonial than a professional to have their own, their unfettered opinion, and if it's for the good of the client and they think it's going to work for the client, it may or may not work for the client, but you got to give them your story and how you think it's going to work for them therapeutically.
See, and I love that because like when we're getting to this page right here and says description of what this product is, a description of what it's for and all of that, it really turns around. In the spa industry, everyone has complained about a portion of the massage therapy industry that requires what they call upselling. And we talk about upselling as massage therapists, and we're like, oh, well, you have to sell this much product, or you have to do this many add-ons. And I think I'm hoping that we are to this point now in our profession where we realize we're not salespeople. We're not salesmen. But what we are is we are educators of our client. Our clients should feel safe to know that we've done our research and we can give our clients that research and give them the opportunity to try it or not try it. It's up to them.
Well, what are some tools that we use? I mean, we use linens. I mean, this is generally across massage therapy. We cover the table.
Yep.
We buy a table, or we provide a table for them if they don't already provide it for us when we see them. So we're giving them cushioning, which is an upsell. The type of the number of threads on the sheets. Is it comfortable? Is it scratchy, or is it smooth? The oil. I mean, I use a nut-free light oil, and I'm not selling that to my client. However, it is a product that I'm using in an application on my service. So there are other more that are less obvious, but we're also choosing products to use with them based on our experience with them.
I love that example. The other thing that I like to compare this to is most massage therapists, when they come out of school, they have about that much business knowledge. And with that big round number of 0 or minimal, maybe a little more than that, but they've got very little business knowledge. The first thing that massage therapists will do is start figuring out, well, let's see, how much can I get paid for my massage? And massage therapists will notoriously go and first start looking at what's the market paying? What is this person being paid? What is that person being paid? Okay, I guess I should be paid somewhere in the middle. No matter what the differences between the 3 services are. I notoriously see places who have unlicensed massage have a lot less cost for their massage, and places that are licensed have a bit more because they have a difference in expectation and expense there as well. Your continuing education, your license itself, the legitimacy that you have to go through, the steps that you have to go through, all those pieces kind of add to your business expense. Seek other professional advice can be professional business advice. I've seen a lot of massage therapists who are flying by the seat of their pants and end up losing a lot of money because they're striving to do it on their own financially, and they're losing out on that possibility. So this doesn't just have to be other medical professionals or other professionals with a pathology or other professionals with a certain prescription or a certain medication, something of that nature. This could literally be seeking help to become a better massage therapist, including your continuing education.
Absolutely.
Because if you don't know what you want to be when you grow up, but you want to do it in massage, the first piece is you're a massage therapist. Awesome, great. Now, what does the next stage mean? Yeah. What is that next step? What is that next piece? And what type of massage therapist do you want to focus as? What are the skill sets that you will need to become better at that thing? And that's where not only education, but even peer mentoring can be a part there. Seek other professionals' advice when needed. If you don't have a friend or a peer to talk to, that can give you some more challenges.
Yeah, I was looking at L right above it and trying to make the distinction. It says refer to other professionals when in the best interest of the client and practitioner, because there's obviously some conflicts of interest that can arise that a simple referral can solve. So when you move from L to M, I think there's a slight distinction based on what you just said. And you said it's not just education, but that is primarily the way any professional grows is through advice. And I think education is a great focus for how therapists believe that they can grow. They want to change their practice or their business model, and they go to certain experts. Well, what deems an expert? What is another profession? What is another professional considered? Is it because they are credentialed and they have achieved a certain, they've completed the checklist for being able to provide advice? Like, well, let's take it. I want to go into like you said, if you have a problem mentally, like if you're having a ethical dilemma and you can't talk to anybody about it, who do you hire to talk to about it? A psychologist. You go to a counselor. Yep. To talk to your friends and family may feel good, and they may give you some great advice, but there are going to be times where they're not going to be able to help you.
It's a gamble.
And and so supervision, I think, is what it's called in ethics. And having somebody that you could call or just talk to. See, and this is the other thing, is the respect. Because if you know a psychologist or a counselor or a psychologist that knows what you do and the implications of, all of the ethical considerations, and, because they watch you or they have helped other massage therapists, which is a really good way to find one, is to ask your colleagues, hey, is there anybody you talk to? You might actually find out more than you ever knew about what people are doing out there. They're going into session with a therapist. I mean, a psychological therapist, not a massage therapist. Because, it's easy to get a massage and then just, as a massage therapist, you just let it all out with your therapist, right? And there are some clients that believe that you're a psychological therapist as well as a massage therapist. But I just, my scope is to nod my head, Absolutely. And this is, I think, where N goes a little bit too. Let's see. Traditions and practices. I mean, we don't practice life coaching somebody on the table. We don't practice, psychologically trying to find solutions for them while they're on the table. Our job is to give them a massage, basically. So finding somebody in an office in a separate setting, that's not massage related, to talk about my dilemmas as a massage therapist is, I think, appropriate.
I like the connection that you pulled with M, seek other professional advice when needed, as seeking counseling. Because I have to tell you, people think massage therapy, what a breeze job. And then they get into it and they're like, okay, yeah, I get to relax. I get to have calm clients, but there's stress with every job. And the stress that you have as a massage therapist is there and can
what if your client...
Go ahead.
What if your client gets on the table and starts talking about their marriage? What do you do? I mean, you don't feel like you're being effective by just nodding your head. So you may actually say, well, this happened to me, or I hear exactly what you're saying, and you come across as somebody who's empathetic, and that's great, and if that's the end of the conversation and you never talk about it again, is that a risk that we're willing to take as a massage therapy practitioner? There are some therapists that won't take that risk, and they know that seeking, referring the L part, referring to other professionals, having a good marriage counselor's business card to give to your client afterwards, if they ask for one or you offer and they accept. I mean, there's just a lot of ways to refer somebody out, but M, I think, is part of that as well. It's like, how do I handle clients who are really talkative on my table about really personal stuff?
For me, when someone comes in and gets into a subject that is emotionally deep, it's emotionally traumatizing, it's something hard for them to address, being willing to say, and I think a lot of massage therapists are a little bashful in this. Gosh, it sounds like you're having a really hard time with that subject. I would suggest that you go see counseling for it, because I know if I were in that situation, that would be really hard for me to go through.
That's the same. That's the same way that we approach how to tell people they have smelly feet. We're like,
Gosh, it sounds like that's really difficult for you. I think you should
yeah.
go see.
Well, no, seriously. It's
Yeah.
like it's just as hard to tell somebody they have stinky feet because we know why they have stinky feet. We just are like, well, how about a podiatrist? You know, you have some fungus in your nails. You know, how do you say that compassionately? In the same way as if they're having the same marital problems or they're having you know, self-confidence issues at work. How do you suggest that they go see somebody and not engage with them and try and solve their problems on the table, you know, and as a psychologist as well as their massage therapist? You know?
I mean, you noticed that I kept it completely ambiguous, right?
Yes.
It sounds like you're having a real difficult time with that.
Yeah.
Fill in the blank. You can put a little line right there. Maybe you should seek support from fill in the blank. It is a process, a structure that shows that you're empathetic, you're feeling for them, and you know that you don't have all the skills to give them the best answer for it, but you can then refer them out to someone. It really gives you the skill not only to refer people out like in L, but then also that you can say, you know what, I feel completely uncomfortable in this situation. Maybe I need to seek some help with that as well. I know a lot of massage therapists who, when they get into the treatment room, they slip their shoes off at the door and they do the full massage barefoot. And one of the challenges that I've heard many a times from clients who have come to me is, gosh, the massage was great, but their feet were just stinky. That means the massage therapist needs help working with their own hygiene issues.
Yeah.
Or they smell like fill in the blank, whatever product that they're wearing or have imbibed, including garlic or chives or hummus. If there's some aspect of you that's keeping you from being ultimately helpful to every client, that's something that you have to either start figuring out or start working with.
Yeah, you need to go see the doctor. I mean, that's seeking professional advice. How do I not offend my clients? How do I get that Yelp review reversed about my stinky feet? You know,
that would be so horrible to have on Yelp. Great massage, however, the feet were really, really bad. Not mine, theirs.
Yeah, it's not a Friends kind of thing where the nail job wasn't that great to look at, you know, but it was worse.
Yeah.
Hey, no, I wanted to bring up to under M. This is sort of a touchy subject, but you know, as a board certified practitioner, I think it's good for us to know, and for every professional, in my opinion. I mean, you don't have to be board certified to get this, what I'm about to bring up, and it's kind of touchy. I'm going to start with a story because when I was working at the spa, and it was a 5-star spa in a really ritzy neighborhood, and you know, we had rooms at the hotel, and the spa was attached. The rooms were starting at, you know, $300 or $400 a night. This is a pretty nice place. Yet I would, you know, leave my shift, my space, my room for my break, and I'd walk outside between the buildings, and I'd see therapists, not skulking, but they wanted to be alone in their space. No eye contact. I would glance and see them out of sight of my eye. One time I stopped and asked, you know, are you okay? And she said, I'm fine, I'll be okay. And those words, she communicated so many things in just those few words. Not just how she said it, but the actual words, I will be okay. So she was dealing with something that she wasn't going to share. She didn't feel like she either needed to or wanted to. She didn't want to get into it because you know, we're all we're all professionals. We're all raised in these in courses, as continuing education and basic, where we try to figure out in our mind how we're going to handle a situation. So when a therapist is when there's a line crossed between a client and a therapist, I'm not going to say, I don't even know what it was with this particular therapist that I talked to, but maybe they're just having a bad day in general. I don't know. But my point is that I think we need to, as therapists, leave our baggage at the door for our clients' benefit. Whatever we have in our head has to be left at the door. And maybe that was her way of doing it, taking a few minutes by herself to deal with it. But I think sometimes this is where M comes in. We need to really recognize that if we're having a problem with the interpretation of behavior and we're offended, some people get really mad and they'll file a complaint, and they'll be more extroverted about their response to inappropriate behavior by a client, for example.
Yep.
And let's just take that as an example. I mean, if you're an introvert, how do you deal with that? Is M suggesting that you need to recognize when to seek professional advice?
Well, and it's not telling you how not to be an introvert. I mean, because that's not the ethical dilemma here. Your personal behaviors of safe and professional boundaries are different, but the safe and professional boundaries will stay the same. It's just how you deal with people. I know I've met a massage therapist who is quite introverted here in the state of Washington, and when it comes to speaking in small groups, she shies away completely. She doesn't like to say one thing. But when she's one-on-one with a client, she doesn't have any problems communicating with that client because it's a one-on-one communication. So when we look at what boundaries we need to take or maintain, when you were talking, something else kind of popped into my mind. We've talked about transference and countertransference before, many times, about pulling on relationships that aren't there and different types of relationships. There's also a secondary connection with transference and countertransference that actually is a lot more personal. For example, I see someone who has brown, curly, long hair who's about my sister's height, and then I have to work with her in a setting. It's going to be more likely that I'm going to treat that person in a different way because my mind already has synapsed with the similarities of that person to a family member, to my sister. Where the same process can happen if you've had negative experiences with a male figure in your life, and you have a client who walks in who walks or talks or sounds or acts like a significant other, or like a person who may have assaulted you or may have been mean or cruel or something of that nature, instantly your brain has to try and translate this relationship with this person is not the relationship with that person, even though they're like that person.
Mm-hmm.
And if the trauma is serious enough, it may not be something you can overcome. It may be something that you have to step back and go, you know what? I understand this is a perfect therapeutic relationship. I have great support, but internally, I have things that are broken that will not allow me to be safe or professional or be able to consciously override this. And so I'm going to need to refer that out.
Yep.
And if a boss or a manager or someone else doesn't understand that, and you're not willing to explain that this is a personal issue because that person reminds me of this person and it's a very negative behavior, and you lose your job, you know what? Congratulations, first of all. I mean, you stood up for yourself. And that's where your ethics need to stand, that you need to be safe and secure so that you can make a safe, secure environment for those around you. So it's hard to connect with if someone who is introverted is off on their own and saying something like, no, I'll be fine. To me, and this is kind of my drama triangle portion, is the helper. I always want to say, oh, are you sure? Is there anything I can do? Because I want to feed into helping them get out of this victim mentality. But is that really helping them? Or is that me feeding into my want to help people? And so I guess the easy statement that I've always used is, I hope everything's going to be okay. If you need any help, just let me know.
Yep. It's good.
If they're crying, no matter what's going on, offering that help. And if your client, going a whole different direction, if your client's on the table and they start an emotional response, emotional release, and they start crying. I know several massage therapists who have taken their hands off the person and said, oh, okay, session's over, and walked out of the room.
Oh, my.
Because they didn't know how to deal with it. And so,
but they don't have to. I think that's the point of M, is there's, and L, obviously, there's other people that are trained to deal with issues that are not massage related.
However,
and in our head, like you said, our own ethics, like defining our own ethics could be a lifelong thing. I mean, they change, especially the longer we're in a profession. We start to discover things about the nature of people that change our own ethics, I think. I mean, the social experiment called Facebook really it opens my eyes as to not a specific person, just how people behave in general. So that changes the way that I interact with my clients, especially. Like, anything to do with politics is not allowed in my room.
Nice.
I don't say it's not allowed. I don't have it on my policy. It's not allowed. I simply divert the conversation. If somebody wants to talk about it, because I know as soon as they start talking about politics, they get tense, and my work is being undone as they speak, and I'm like, no. My job, and to tell them that I'm trying to do my job, because that's what they're paying A for, and B, why they keep seeing me. That is my goal. It is not to say that you don't have a valid political standpoint. I'm saying this is not, we should have a beer over this, and I'll put my table away and we'll schedule another time for that, away from the therapeutic relationship. But
nice.
Yeah.
So I like this transition from M until N, because to me, there's such different things that fall in the same line. I mean, they definitely have similarities, but to me, this, in my experience, and everyone has different experiences, I know this, but in my experience, the first half of this one really speaks to how we relate to other professionals. And so, respect the traditions and practices of other professionals.
Well, don't we need to know what they are before we can respect them?
Oh, thank you. That is huge. If you
Yes.
don't know why another person, another professional does something, don't make a guess, an assumption, or just get snitty about it. Ask.
Yep.
I'm the son of a chiropractor, so I understand the chiropractic genre and perspective and purpose, and I spent a year in college with chiropractic, and so I mean I get what their piece is. And I think the secondary piece to that's just as important, respect the traditions and practices of other professionals, is respect.
Yeah. Okay, here's a good example. As you probably know, Nathan, from your involvement in all of the shareholders in our profession, skincare is becoming a thing. And the question is, what responsibility or service can a massage therapist provide by scope that has to do with skincare? And the first thing that comes to mind is, oh, well, I can't really be a cosmetologist, but you know what? If you have something that looks like cancer on you in a place that you don't see on a regular basis, is it my responsibility to tell you? A lot of therapists will say yes, some will say no. It's sort of like the CPR argument. Like, that's a choice as well.
Yep.
Isn't it? Like,
Yep.
if I'm going to perform CPR on a client, I'm not going to propose to save their life. I am going to maintain a bodily functions until the proper emergency personnel get there. Okay, I can't assume that I'm going to save their life if I pull out my CPR card for me, because I have to have a cheat sheet. I took it and I'm like, I have to review it every so often. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But okay, let's go back to the skincare thing, where if you see something that on their skin that they can't see, are you obligated to tell them about it? Well, the jury's still out, I think. But this is part of not being a dermatologist, is what I'm getting at. You're not going to tell them that they have cancer. You can't do it. Even though you've been trained to identify, and they have all 5, A, B, C, D, E characteristics in this basal cell carcinoma looking thing, right? And you can't really use that phrase either, because that's not our scope. Our scope is to say, hey, I know a dermatologist and they can do some tests and figure out what this is, but my recommendation is you go see Dr. So-and-so.
See, and
as soon as possible.
I go back a little different on that one, because whenever I look at terminology, and especially the bizarreness of the English language, and the first thing that I say is, as massage therapists, we can assess a condition, but we cannot diagnose. That's it. Assess, yep. Can't diagnose. So what do we assess? A lateral curvature of the spine is what we can assess. Sure. I'm noticing a lateral curvature of your spine. You should go see your doctor about it. Or did you know that you have that? Oh, is that scoliosis? Hey, I'm telling you what I see.
Right.
When someone says, or you see something on their back that's a large pustule, and if you effleurage over it, it's going to pop.
Or push it further.
And deeper into the body. These are points where you have to say, here's what I'm seeing. I'm not saying you have what is that? The big, huge zit.
Yeah, I'm not a cosmetologist. I couldn't.
Once again, it's not going to come here because I don't know it. But you got this big, huge pustule on your back. My purpose is not going to be going in and saying that, going in and changing it. My purpose is going to be saying, hey, this is what I'm noticing. I'm not going to work around that area. I'm just going to avoid that area because of this. And if they're like, yes, well, but that's where it hurts. Wonderful. You need to go see
Dr. Pimple Popper.
Yeah.
Yes, they need to go see Dr. Pimple Popper.
Oh my gosh, that's disgusting. Yes,
but my point is, this is my point with N is that's where our part in the whole care of our clients stops. We need to respect the boundary of, okay, any tests that need to be done need to be arranged by your doctor, whatever the specialist is that we're referring them to. I have somebody says, I've been having persistent cramps, and you go, have you been drinking enough water? Oh, no, that's not in our scope. We need to send them to a neurologist, likely, if they have persistent cramps.
Oh, a dietitian, if nothing else.
Or a dietitian, or somebody that will take over the continuum of care. And that's what I think respect means, the traditions and practices, because there's things that if massage is not helping, if we're not trained to say, oh, well, we can help dehydration with massage, how many of us have ever been trained to treat dehydration with massage?
Yeah, yeah. And
Well, we
I've
have
never
now.
seen a continuing education class specifically on hydration.
Right. Now, if there's cramping, yes, I will definitely give us that as a profession if there's cramping. But if it's caused by dehydration, we can't say. We can put two and two together and say, oh, it's a dry cramp or it's a wet cramp. I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out there, but the kind of cramp it is. So if it's persistent, or if it's occasional, all these things are within our scope, but not the dehydration part. That's a medical condition, I think.
Well, okay. So there's another thing on here. What are your thoughts on why they separated out traditions and practices of other professionals?
Well, practices, traditions are like a massage therapy tradition. And I think the practices are the specialties under which the traditions fall.
Huh.
So it's more, what's that?
I was going a different way. I was thinking traditions are the beliefs, the
Sure.
belief structure, and the practices are the activities that may go along with that belief structure.
I would agree with that as well. I mean, traditions are, what is the tradition of a massage therapist? There's a pretty ABCD thing that we do. Informed consent is A. I mean, and that's a tradition of any body work or anybody touching anybody. I think informed consent is part of other professions as well.
It made me think of the Fiddler on the Roof. Tradition.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very...
How we get that across is a practice. I mean, we could have an intake form that we require every person to do online, or we could always verbalize with them that informed consent, which I prefer a little combination of both because not everybody's a visual learner or an auditory learner. So, it depends on the practice, I suppose. I mean, so one is a function of the other. Practice is a function of tradition.
So that leaves us to the end of this, which is foster collegial relationships. You're back. Sorry. Okay. Mm-hmm. I look at a couple of things with fostering relationships and fostering collegial relationships. When I think of, and I'm going to tell you, I think of it wrong. I have no problem telling you that this is not what this is referring to exactly, but this is Nathan Nordstrom's perspective on fostering collegial relationships. I think of a farmer. I think of a farmer who is planting his seeds at the very beginning and waiting. And then he goes in and he makes sure to water it regularly. And nothing comes up. And then he starts seeing the little sprouts come up and he's like, oh, okay, things are going right. And he continues with his practices to build his farm, to build his crop. And when I think of fostering collegial relationships, that's my vision. Because generally, if you go into a neurologist and say, I'm a massage therapist and I'd like to help your patients feel better, and here's some of the ways that I can do it, the likelihood you're going to be blown off the first time may be pretty high. It depends on how much gumption you have, how much focus and how much experience they have. Mm-hmm. They may be ready to harvest. They may be like, perfect, I've got 14 clients for you. Most likely they're going to go, thanks, leave your paperwork at the door.
Yep.
And then a couple of weeks later, you come across a piece of research on PubMed about massage therapy and its effects on neurological patients who have this condition. And you go, oh, well, that's awesome. Maybe I should go back to that doctor. And you bring that back the next time. You put your business card on it so that they see the business card again. You go to the front desk. Hey, is the doctor available? If they're not, I'd just really like to make sure that he got a chance to see this. I highlighted those pieces that I think really would be important to him or her. And so then they get this opportunity to see your paperwork again, as well as someone else in the office gets to connect with you as a massage therapist. And then the third, and then the fourth, and then the fifth opportunity you're going through and you're seeing and hearing all these things and connecting. And that's how you foster a relationship.
The little leaves start popping out.
Exactly. And then you finally have that point where it's bearing fruit. And most of the time by that point, you better have supported yourself with enough therapists to produce the response that you need, or else you're going to have clients that just won't be able to get in to see you.
That's a beautiful way to look at it. I really like that, because the soil, the ground, is the professional training and beliefs that we profess on a daily basis. And those little plants could be a crop of apple trees or corn stalks or whatever. I mean, but they're all rooted in massage therapy, and I think that's kind of brilliant.
And
I wanted to. I know we don't
there.
have a lot of time. What's that?
Truth is, the nutrients are already there. The truth is already the pieces that make that a good analogy are that our world is connected already, and our world has all these pieces, and all we're doing is doing the right things so many times that it actually will come to bear, and we'll kind of get that response. And yes, we're running out of time.
I wanted to just put one more twist on that, foster collegial relationships, because it's something that instead of being competitive or contentious with our own amongst ourselves, it can apply to understanding how other massage therapists think. We all know the division that is apparent more so at sometimes than others about the type of massage that massage therapy purports to supply to our clients. We have the therapeutic version and we have the medical version, and somewhere in between is where a lot of therapists lie as well. But I think the fostering collegial relationships includes not only understanding the nature of their practice and how they choose to deliver massage therapy to their clients, but working with them as well to say that a referral system amongst massage therapists is definitely in order nowadays. I think that if I'm a therapeutic massage therapist, meaning more spa-like, and I have a client who needs structural integration, I'm going to send them to somebody that's a rolfer. And I don't maybe subscribe to that, but I know that that is what they need. And if I don't know any rolfers or any structural integrationists, I'm remiss, I think, of the duty that the standard is calling on. If I'm not able to refer to another therapist, you're never going to get this, what I call level 7 client, that is using different practitioners in massage and body work. And we have such an ego sometimes where we think we should be able to serve every need, body work and massage need of our client, but we simply can't. And I think when we rely on those collegial relationships and we start to serve our clients better by referring to within our own circles, I think that's maybe what this standard is suggesting, is that we need to be able to do that, and fluidly, not just because your client looks like your sister.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. Absolutely. And I want to kind of pull N together real quick, because when we're talking about other massage therapists in our profession who practice slightly different than we do, if you're a deep tissue therapist and they're a relaxation-based therapist, if they're an energy worker and you're a structural integrator, or you have these wide varieties and different specs in there, really the beginning of this standard and the end of this standard are cause and effect. Respect the traditions and practices of other professionals, and then you can foster collegial relationships. Because you can't have a collegial, good standing relationship with a person if you don't respect their traditions and their practices in the skills that they have. You build on one so the other can come to pass.
And you've heard of cultural diversity, right?
What? What's that?
So let's apply that to our profession and call it professional diversity. If we understand how similarly natured, healthcare providers on one end And on the other end, touch therapy practitioners, not just massage therapists, but we're talking more like the manual therapy realm.
Absolutely.
So if we understand how they all work, I mean, chiropractic is sort of in the middle between the two, still, I mean, after all these decades, there's still, I don't know, is that what you kind of experienced? I mean, there's more form and structure with what education, but I mean, ultimately it's not considered allopathic, traditional, American style medicine. It's still kind of like, it works for some, but not others, kind of thing.
It's getting more respect. Chiropractors are getting more mainstream, but you're right. They're not considered a standard medical provider in every state. There are some states where I think there's still 2 states where they don't even have licensure.
Oh.
And so, I mean, the piece of what is the value proposition to the community if we don't seek out these abilities to connect with other professionals and respect them effectively, those are going to be different. So, I giggle whenever I work with chiropractors because knowing the terminology, you also get this opportunity to say, okay, so are you an activator? Are you a hole-in-one? Are you a rack 'em and crack 'em? What's your style? What's your model? And yes, rack 'em and crack 'em is actually a style.
Wow.
But what are those pieces that you can then find out about a chiropractor by what they say? Because most of them are going to say, oh, I do them all. And you say, yeah, but what's your focus? Just like you say, okay, what type of massage therapist are you? Deep tissue? Are you therapeutic? Are you relaxation? What's your thing? Oh, I can do all of those. Okay, but what do you prefer? And then as a client, you can go, oh, okay, now I know what your standard of focus is. Each of those things allows us to create that crossover bond to respect the other professionals that are both in our profession as well as those who are outside of our profession that need respect and need for us to build those relationships to make us all stronger.
And it all comes down to what services the client best.
Yep.
A client may not want to have 8 different practitioners working with them, and that's fine. And you can do your best to serve their needs. But for the ones that deserve the opportunity and maybe a little bit of education about how other practitioners can best help them, not better, I'm saying the collaboration and the integrative team, as it were, you can create that team, I think, through this standard by understanding the scope and the professional nature of those other professions, like the culture that it is.
Yep. Thank you, David, for being with me today. I appreciate the conversation. We seem to do this whenever we get on the phone, and so it's good to be able to record our conversations.
For sure.
Yep. And if someone has a question for you, David, how do they get a hold of you?
That would be David at educatedtouch.com.
Okay. And what are you teaching? What are you excited about? What's coming down your pike?
Well, I had the opportunity in Kentucky recently at a conference to teach an event massage class, and that's really kind of exciting for me because a program that addresses everything from ethics to operational standards and goals for a chair massage practice as augmentation or standalone practice is really kind of my thing right now. So whenever I get the opportunity, I will be focusing more on that as well.
Awesome. So if anyone has any interest in having David come out and teach really a engaging class that really goes through the whole process of outcall. And I mean, I always love looking at your experiences versus my experiences because they are so different and so the same in so many ways, but the differences that you have in working in group events is amazing. It's beautiful to see those types of things that really do help. So thank you once again. And
it was nice to meet you, David Otto. Thank you, Nathan. The hour has flown by. We hope you've enjoyed this discussion with Ethics Outside the Box. As you've seen, Nathan uses many second-hand stories of ethical situations. If you'd like to share your story or you have any questions, feel free to contact him and Nathan at educatedtouch.com. If you'd like to register for next week's live webinar, go to shop.educatedtouch.com. Under live webinars, you will see all upcoming webinars. If you have just watched this video and would like continuing education for home study, you can go to shop.educatedtouch.com under the home study options with the date or episode number to receive your exam. If you would please like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel, we will keep you up to date on new videos. If you'd like to attend one of our live courses, you can find upcoming scheduled events at www.educatedtouch.com. Thank you for joining us today. Be well and have an ethical day.